All right, our regularly scheduled meeting of November 16th is now in session. Oh,
I'm calling roll tonight.
Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor Clark,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brinkman,
Here.
Councilwoman Cole,
Here.
Councilman Cernanek,
Present.
Councilman Taylor,
Present.
Councilman Stallman,
Here.
Councilman Trujillo.
Here.
All right, would you all rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, then the agenda is approved as submitted. Minutes for November 2nd. Corrections, updates. Then those minutes are approved as submitted. Minutes for November 9th.
I have two changes.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 2, line 35 and 36, I want to strike associated fees and the word and then add to the end of line 36, and fines which are generally, much lower than those in other municipalities in the Denver area.
Okay.
And then line 41, change the word fees to fines.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else? Then those minutes are approved with those changes. Any new city employees?
No, sir, not tonight.
Okay. That brings us to our guest citizen, Mike Bagnall. Mike here? Come on down to the hot spot, please. This evening, the Littleton City Council is pleased to recognize Mike Bagnall as guest citizen about 36 years after he accomplished something that has left a lasting mark on the community. We don't rush things here. Mike grew up in Littleton in the Aberdeen Village area and currently resides with his wife Tracy and 4 children in the Southbridge neighborhood. Mike owns Bagnall Services, Inc., which is in the business of cleaning and caring for carpets, tile, loose rugs, and upholstery. In 1974, Littleton Public Schools held a contest for the creation of a logo for Western Welcome Week. Mike was an 8th grade student at Euclid Junior High School. His art teacher, Mrs. Van Bieber, encouraged Mike to enter several designs for the logo contest. One of Mike's entries was selected as the winner. It was the cowboy boot we all recognize today, although it has been modified a bit over time. Mike and his company sponsors many community events, including Western Welcome Week. The next time you see the Western Welcome Week logo, you will know where it all started. And tonight, we are pleased to recognize Mike Bagnall for his artistic talents and the contribution he made all those many years ago, as well as currently, for Littleton's most important community celebration. Is Janelle or Cindy here? Okay. Well, then, congratulations, Mike. Thank you. Sorry it took so long.
That's okay.
Mike, do you have any comments?
I'm just pleased to be a citizen of Littleton, and Western Welcome has been a part of our family's life since we were all little boys. Came from a family of 5 boys, and it's an important part of what I do now. I sponsor it, and I'm always thrilled with Western Welcome Week, and I'm just glad to know everybody knows who did it now.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the logo.
Very much. Have a good day.
That brings us to unscheduled public appearances, which is a time anybody can come down and make a comment, ask a question. We ask you limit yourself to approximately 4 minutes. State your name and address. Come on down, Pam.
Thank you.
Hear me?
He's speaking the microphone, Helen.
Bill's.
I can put up some visual aids if you want. That's fine.
Name and address.
My name is Pam Chadbourne. I live at 5402 South Nevada Street. It's the corner of Crestline in Nevada, kind of at the edge of what's called the football in downtown Littleton. You folks have seen me before. September 7th, I came about the PDO for Old Town Dental, and I asked for some things, and Mr. Blaston responded. You all should have received that in email, and his mail is dated November 1st. So the point of my being here is actually in the middle of the page. I'm going to request that the council please not act on that until I have a chance, until at least I have a chance to bring us some more info. And then I think there's maybe even more data that you would want. Mr. Mayor, I want to assure you, I don't want a $40,000 study of street lighting. I think we can do it for cheaper, and I'm going to do some work on it to save some of that money. So I don't want to make a huge deal out of this, and I hope you all don't think I am. I appreciate your time and staff's time on this. So I hope you think it's worth the iterations. I do. So the proposal that I'd like to bring will be a compromise on street lighting, I hope. It's a compromise between people who want no change and want very dark streets and a bunch of Sternberg acorns in residential streets in downtown. And I want to clarify, I guess last time I showed some acorns that are up there, but Sternberg is a big company and they make a whole bunch of kind of lights. These are called acorns because of their shape. But they make other kinds, and one of them are the downward directed kinds. I acknowledge totally that Excel may not have these, but they do have some downward directed ones, and we can work with them. So that'll, I'll be looking into that. But Sternberg, I could say I want Sternbergs, and Charlie and I would agree, but they wouldn't be the same Sternberg. So I think that you're going to find that in the compromise I propose there's substantial cost savings. And that to me is a huge motivator for taxpayers, for citizens, and I think for this council and the Planning Commission. So I hope that that's enough for you to look forward to December 7th and not make any decisions before then. As far as the sidewalk, I had a couple specific responses to Charlie's memo, and his comments or recommendations for sidewalk widening was, we can leave them as they are, we can widen into the owner's property or widen into the street, which was recommended by staff. I had asked, so if we apply this policy later when I want to change my property, what happens with my sidewalks? Is the street width going to cause the city staff to say, you have to widen your sidewalks entirely on your own property? That could happen. And, just for the record, that question has not been answered. And a policy or guideline should be able to answer that question for a property owner. I think that's actually the whole point of policies, is that we all understand the impact on us when they're applied. So just for the record, I don't know yet what the impact is on my property for sidewalk widening. And as an aside, I've been radicalized by exposure to people who feel that cities shouldn't have any impact on property owners. I actually kind of now am veering toward leave the sidewalks as they are. And there's functional reasons for that, but not political. But anyway, that's sidewalks. Street lighting, Mr. Blaston suggested that the fixtures be reduced from 4 to 3. I don't think any additional fixtures are needed there to kind of jump to the conclusion, but Charlie suggested that the Sternberg streetlight plan can be continued in downtown redevelopment, or that council can direct them to stop using Sternberg's and consider different streetlights. That's the data I'm going to bring you. And he said we can continue Sternberg's use, but minimize the number of Sternberg's compared to commercial areas. And I want to clarify, for one thing, we all agree, I think, that we don't want to go back and take out hundreds of acorns that are already installed. That costs too much. We're talking about mostly residential streets that are north of Maine that have old, aging cobras, 23 feet. Some of them are spaced very far apart, and some neighborhoods have no lighting. And there's about 6 acorns in this area. So I said a good time, but it's actually almost the last time that we can revise the lighting plan in this area. So I'm very motivated to get this change in, and I'll do work to bring you data to help you make that decision. And I guess I'm jumping to part of my conclusions, but I'm going to be recommending downward directed night sky compliant light fixtures with metal halide bulbs instead of high pressure sodium. I wanted to end on agreement. I think we probably all share objectives. We want things that are aesthetic. We want to please the stakeholders, and those are our residents, but also business. Not just where the business is, but they have people walking to and from their businesses, and we want an appealing mix of residences of many types, as well as the businesses. And so that's a good thing, and I think we agree about that. But we want to be fiscally prudent. We want, I put this as bottom line, safety and security for traffic, pedestrians, property owners, and residents. That's bottom line. And I'm going to show you something that will do that. I also forgot to put on here, but when you walk out tonight to the parking lot, look at the lighting fixtures in the parking lot. To the left, there are a bunch of experimental lighting fixtures in the parking lot. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that, but on the left, you'll see some that kind of hang down, and they radiate light in different directions. On the right, you will see fixtures like I recommend. And they're flat. The bulb is recessed. The light that comes down is a nice cone. It provides really good illumination below the fixture. And they're not too tall. So just remember when you walk out tonight, take a look at the fixtures that are there. And you'll see some good examples, I think.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for your time and consideration.
Anyone else? Sure.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Keith Gardner. I'm a council member from the city to the east, Centennial. You're right, this is a little intimidating. I'm used to sitting over there. Now on this side. But I'm here tonight in support of your resolution for supporting the Littleton Public Schools and their grant application for the Safe Routes to School program. We last night had our meeting, which hopefully yours won't be. We did budget last night. It was about 6 hours. So, but we passed a resolution last night. It was unanimous, which you would hope it would be as a resolution. But also, we have a number of other folks that are writing letters. I believe the mayor has written a letter, the police chief, as well as the fire chief, the Arapahoe County Sheriff, as well as John Brackney from the South Metro Denver Chamber. So we've got a very good group effort in trying to bring this program to both our cities. Currently, the way it stands, there's going to be 4 schools in the program, and we've been very good to be very PC, 2 per city. And I think that this is a very good program for our children in our schools, and it'll hopefully reduce traffic congestion around our schools and get people exercising out and about and away from these TVs as much. So if I don't know if everybody's familiar with the program. There's 2 classroom sessions. They teach them in PE class, and we're also going to be doing some work to try to get some bikes donated, but we'll get to that point once we get the grant application done. But the grant, we have a self-imposed deadline of, I believe it's Thursday, actually. I might have told you Wednesday, and I apologize.
That's okay.
But the actual true deadline is December, but we wanted to be ahead of the curve because we tried this last year and we missed it by a day, and that's quite a bit in this process. So thank you for letting me come. You have a very nice setup here, but you're right, this is a little intimidating. So, but are any questions or anything about the program? I figure you all knew about it, so all right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Keith.
Anyone else? Come on down.
Hello, thank you. My name is Autumn Gold, and I live at 5540 South Curtis Street, and I am here to support my neighbor, Pam. I don't want her to be the only one to fight this fight. Our neighborhood is growing so fast that I don't know if we can stay in this neighborhood. We've been there almost 10 years, but the traffic is so bad. The parking is so bad, I can't even find a place to park in front of my house. And now those lights are in my bedroom. And so I don't know a lot about lighting, but I know that there can be a solution, and that those lights belong on Main Street and not in our residential neighborhood. I think we need to protect our neighborhood and make it a residential neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, that brings us to the consent agenda, which are items that can be adopted by a simple motion and normally are non-controversial. First item is item 7A, which is an ordinance on first reading amending the 2010 budget.
Sorry. This is an ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending ordinance number 27, series of 2009, known as the Annual Appropriation Bill for all municipal purposes of the City of Littleton, counties of Arapahoe, Jefferson, and Douglas, State of Colorado, for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2010, and ending December 31, 2010.
Each year when we get towards the end of the year, we do some a fix-up, for lack of a better word, for the budget. This is our fix-up for the year 2010. Part of these are caused by grants that we didn't anticipate that we received during the year. Part of these are monies that we got that we haven't been able to spend and carried over into the next year. So this is an ordinance on first reading that would modify the 2010 budget to take into account all these things. Bruce.
I don't want to pull this, but I wanted to just clarify that I had asked Doug Farman, the finance director, just to verify that we weren't seeing any material alterations to the year-end fund balances as a result of this, and he, in fact, confirmed that we aren't.
Okay.
So,
second reading and public hearing is scheduled for December 7th. Next is a resolution for the 2011 Fire Department Permit Plan Review Enterprise.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, as the governing body of the City of Littleton Fire Department Permit and Plan Review Enterprise, approving the 2011 budget.
We have 3 enterprises, Tabor Enterprises, which have a separate governing board and a separate budget. We have 3 resolutions in front of us to approve the budget for 2011 for these 3 enterprises. This is the first of these, and this is for the Fire Department's Permit, Plan, and Review Enterprise.
I'm going to pull that.
Okay, that's been pulled. Item 7C is another one of those.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, as the governing body of the City of Littleton Emergency Medical Transportation Enterprise, approving the 2011 budget. As the city attorney said, this is for the Emergency Medical Transport Enterprise Fund, which is one of our 3 Tabor enterprises. And all 3 of these funds also appear as part of our general budget, which we're going to approve as item 8B. Next one is item 7D. This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, as the governing body of the City of Littleton Sewer Utility Enterprise approving the 2011 budget.
We operate the sewer utility as a Tabor enterprise. It's funded by fees that we collect from the users, and the revenue does not count as part of our Tabor revenue. This resolution approves the budget for 2011 for that particular enterprise. Next one, 7E, is a resolution accepting library unanticipated grants and gifts.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, authorizing the receipt of cash donations for the library into the unanticipated gifts and grants revenue account and authorizing the expenditure of such monies from the unanticipated gifts and grants expenditure account for library expenses.
We received during the year about $1,800 in unanticipated gifts and grants designated for the library. This would allow us to expend that money for that purpose. 7F.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, supporting the Safe Routes to School program and the Littleton Public School District's application for a non-infrastructure grant for the Safe Routes to School program.
This is the item that Mr. Gardner was down here talking to us about. This is a resolution supporting the application by Littleton Public Schools for Colorado Safe Routes to Schools. Item 7G.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, as the governing body of the City of Littleton Emergency Medical Transportation Enterprise amending the 2010 budget.
This is another one of those resolutions that makes some modifications to the 2010 budget for the Emergency Medical Transport Enterprise, which is one of our 3 enterprise funds, to take into account some various changes that have happened over the year.
Mr. President, I move for the adoption consent agenda items A, C, D, E, F, G.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? It's ready to vote.
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay, that brings us to item 7B, which was pulled. This is for the permit plan and review enterprise fund for the fire departments. Peggy.
Yes, I didn't pull this for a major reason, but I pulled it in part because there's an error in the cover sheet that we got. The history and facts, unless I'm totally misremembering, this was part of the 2011 budget process, not 2010. I don't think we discussed it in 2010. I mean, as that budget process. Is that, didn't we discuss that this year?
That's correct. It should be the 2011 budget process.
Okay.
We discussed that in September this year.
Okay. And then most of these items in the 7 series here say the line item budget has been reviewed by council and information has been made available, et cetera. I'd like, we don't have to change these, but in the future, when council reviews something and it's mentioned in a document, it would be good for people for the future if they're trying to track back to know the specific date or dates. In this case, we may have talked about it in the pre-budget, but I'm fairly certain we talked about it in the pre-budget in December.
Sure.
Right, so it's
we
just...
can be more specific.
Yeah, I mean, council can be persistent to go back and look at minutes, but I think if citizens want to, it's good for them to have that specific reference in the cover material.
Okay.
So I don't have
Great idea.
an issue otherwise, though. So in that case, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move that the 2011 Permit and Plan Review Enterprise Budget Resolution for 2011 be approved.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the permit plan enterprise budget for 2011. Discussion?
The vote 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay, that brings us to item 8A, which is amendments to the city code regarding floodplain regulations.
This is an ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending provisions of the city code regarding floodplain regulations.
Council, our city engineer, Bob Deeds, is going to present this to you.
Thank you. Thank
Good evening, Council. My name is Bob Deeds, City Engineer, Floodplain and Zoning Administrator, different titles, but same guy. We've got before us tonight, City Council, or pardon me, the City Code includes floodplain regulations for properties in Littleton. By having these floodplain regulations on the books, FEMA will allow us to provide insurance to property owners in Littleton for flood protection measures. In 1989, the city adopted the current floodplain map, and the past 10 years, FEMA has been gradually getting into digitized mapping. So our maps will be available on computer rather than hard paper copies here in the office. As the first floodplain regulations were adopted in 1978, and we met with the Colorado Water Conservation Board staff and went through our regulations, comparing those to the federal requirements, and we found several updates that were necessary. None of the updates will financially impact property owners. There are some updates that require more restrictions on what you can do within a floodplain if you have a property in the floodplain. In the council communication, I've listed about 8 different sections of the current code that we're going to be updating with some different definitions. One of the definitions, for example, is manufactured housing. We used to call them mobile homes, but the federal government calls them manufactured housing now. So that's just one of the little nuances that FEMA has put into the regulations. It's a requirement that local government participate in the National Flood Insurance Protection Program to make flood insurance available to local property owners. We are in this program, and by being in the program, we are able to qualify our residents of Littleton to a 15% discount in their flood insurance rates. We currently are classed a Class 7 municipality, and that provides that 15%. The new floodplain maps are based on the National Geodetic Vertical Datum of 1988, and that means a whole lot to you, I'm sure. The difference is the old maps from 1988, the new maps are based on a 1988 datum that is 3 feet higher than the old regulation, but we don't change the maps at all. They just are shown that way. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's just a process that we go through. The maps are all, in effect, we didn't raise the state of Colorado by 3 feet. They just changed all the numbers and all the lines.
Just to confuse people.
I have here a copy of, I made a print of that digitized map, and one of the maps that we have are, here is the downtown area of Littleton, and the digitized maps will cover the entire Arapahoe County, but we'll always be using the maps that are designated as City of Littleton maps. I have.
Could you please explain to the television audience out there which of these are floodplains?
Oh, sure.
The different ditches that we have coming through?
Sure, I can do that. On the map here that we have, the dark shaded area is 100-year floodplain maps through the city of Littleton on various drainage ways. This one in particular is Little's Creek as it comes down through Littleton. And there are several zones shown here. The federal government shows both the 100-year floodplain and the 500-year floodplain on the map, just to confuse people more.
And Bob, just to help clarify, the 100-year floodplain or the 500-year floodplain corresponds to, or it's just focusing on the 100-year floodplain. That's a 1% chance any year.
That's a 1% chance
is how it ends up being defined, even though vernacularly we refer to it as the 100-year floodplain.
That's correct. And the 500-year floodplain has a 1/10 of a chance occurring in any one given year. So it's a little less.
And just for clarification, when we talk about what we're doing to help facilitate flood insurance being available, you had said that this was what we, let's see, I think your words were, allows us to provide insurance. What it is that the insurance can be made available. The city's not in the insurance business to do this, but by designating and providing clarification for these areas, it allows the residents to then be able to have that flood insurance be available to them, not that the city's doing that.
Yes, sir. Thank you for clarifying that. I went right by that and didn't think twice. So, yes, we're not in the insurance business. If you want insurance on your property, you talk to your own insurance agent, and they have the ability to obtain that 15% discount for you. It's not the city doing that. The map that I have here shows both the 100 and the 500-year floodplains. The darker area on the map is the 100-year floodplain. This map is a digitized map, but we have better scale maps in the city's offices than these.
So, Bob, that middle dark area, is that Lee Gulch?
That is.
Or Little's Creek? Little's Creek.
This is Little's Creek, and that's the width of the floodplain is the darker area.
And the top one is?
Top one is Slaughterhouse Gulch.
And the bottom one is?
Bottom one is Lee Gulch.
Okay.
And there are a couple more maps that will attach to this and be the size of the room once we got done. But digitizing them, you're able to bring them up on the screen, zero in on your property or your property area, and determine whether your property is in the floodplain or not.
Questions from Mr. Dietz? Bruce.
Bob, I don't know if this is to you or to Doug Farman, but do you guys anticipate, once this project is up and running, any expectation of cost savings from converting this stuff over to a digital format as far as the city is concerned, the record-keeping aspects of the digital versus paper?
I don't think there'll be a lot of savings. We'll go to the maps as we always have and interpret the maps for the public. I get phone calls from banks who would like to know if a certain property at this address is in the floodplain or not. Mm-hmm. Frankly, the FEMA maps scale is such that it's very difficult to determine that. So we go to the maps that these maps are based on, which are 100 scale maps. And from that, we can determine what effect the floodplain has on a property.
No, I understand. Okay. All right. But you're not...
Savings to the city, not really. No.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Dietz?
Bob, in the package that was provided to us, it appears that there's a fairly comprehensive listing of those addresses that are in the floodplain. Does anyone ever index those addresses other than...
What happens annually is the Urban Drainage Flood Control District office downtown Denver, they send out notices to each of those addresses advising the property owner that they are in or adjacent to a floodplain. And that's their official list. They've already gone through, in past years, looked at all the maps and pulled off all the addresses. And so We know that there's 402 properties that are partially in the floodplain or entirely in the floodplain. And of those 402 properties, there's 206 that contain houses. So some of them are open space, empty lots, that type of thing. So each of the property owners that are near the floodplain are advised that they're near a floodplain. They're given our phone number to call, to come in and talk to us, or call us and look at the floodplain maps in more detail, or they can go to the library and look at the maps there. It's available to them.
Bruce?
Actually, I do have to point out an error in that regard, because it should be 207 houses. Because when South Suburban refilled Kettering Lake, they flooded my basement, and I'm not on your list, and Charlie knows about this, so I'm assuming you guys will get that corrected.
Well, but you're going to have to be on the map. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
That's only a once in a 501 year.
Yeah,
event,
apparently
so.
I just happened to live there when the 500 year hit.
Yes.
So.
All right. This is a public hearing. There are no names on the roster, but if anyone wants to come down and address us about this issue, now would be the time. Seems none. How about a motion?
Say something,
oh,
please.
sure. Jose.
After the flood of 65, and once the Chatfield Dam was put into place and the river was channelized down below, a lot of these were taken out of the floodplain because of the channelization. However, you have McClellan Reservoir that's located to our south. And what is the floodplain designation below that dam?
Below the dam is Dad Clark Gulch, and that is on some other mapping that we have. We have not had that federally designated, but it's a map that we will enforce ourselves. It costs about $4,000 to get your map designated by FEMA, and so we have not gone to that expense for Dad Clark Gulch. But we do have the maps.
Will that be designated as a floodplain? That property that spreads out, I think the Enzer property is to the west of it.
Yes, sir. The Enzer property is very much involved in that.
If the dam ever busts there, there's going to be a lot of water coming across.
Well, the dam bursting and causing a floodplain is not the 100-year floodplain. That would be a different analysis of the floodplain, and the state engineer's office is responsible to maintain that information. I have not seen a floodplain designated if the dam were to burst. I'm not for sure that would be a whole lot different than the 100-year floodplain or the 500-year floodplain, but I've just never seen a map that compared the two.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
You bet.
Motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the public hearing be closed and the ordinance authorizing the floodplain regulations amendments to the city code be approved.
Second.
Do we need to designate where they're published? If it's on second?
No, we do that every year by resolution, so you don't have to separately designate it.
Okay. Peggy, you're the second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance authorizing floodplain regulation amendments to the city code. Discussion. Council ready to vote?
Vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
All right, that brings us to item 8B, which is our annual appropriation ordinance or our budget.
This is an ordinance to be known as the annual appropriation bill for all municipal purposes of the City of Littleton, counties of Arapahoe, Douglas, and Jefferson, State of Colorado for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2011 and ending December 31, 2011.
Council, our Finance Director, Doug Farman, will present this to you.
Good evening. The city manager presented the council with his proposed budget for 2011, and council discussed the proposed budget over 3 nights in September during those budget work sessions. The city manager's budget had proposed a 3% reduction compared to the 2010 budget, and during the council workshops, they had proposed another 1.25% reduction in expenditures. So overall, This budget includes a 4% reduction in the general fund compared to 2010. This is a big policy change because it brings our expenditures for 2011 basically into alignment with the revenues of about $46 million. In 2010, we had balanced our expenditures with the use of fund balance, which is basically a carryover of cash balance from the previous year of $1.5 million. The ordinance before you for 2011 includes 14 different city funds, totaling approximately $68.8 million. There's a separate ordinance for the mill levy to be collected and received in 2011, and that is 6.662 mills, and that rate has not changed since 1991.
Questions for Mr. Furman?
Doug, as I read through all the background material, one of the things that was included in our discussion was setting 4 review dates during 2011 to be able to actually close the gap so that indeed what you were talking about is coming very close, indeed is something that we can actually look at as closing during the year with possible remediation during 2011. That's not included yet in this material. Is it going to be included in the, because it doesn't appear in the ordinance, so does that need to be made separately, or how do we deal with that?
If I can address that, we had that issue arise when we approved the minutes for the last of the 3 budget sessions. We made sure that we modified the minutes to reflect what the decision was of the council. And basically, and I'm doing this from memory, but my memory was that the council decided it would have 4 review sessions throughout the year. Our main objective is to look at whether the actual revenues are coming in to match the projected or budgeted revenues. If the actual revenues are coming in less than what the budgeted revenues were, then we will decide what action to take at that point in time. But we were anticipating that if the difference became substantial, we would probably go to furloughs, but are not doing that. That is not in this budget that's being approved for tonight.
So we still have those hard review dates, but they don't need to be included as part of this ordinance, is that right?
No, sir.
Since you've said what you said, Mr. Mayor, even though it's a little digression, we said if things had a clear turn for the worse, we wouldn't wait to the end of a quarter to have discussion. We could take action sooner.
Yes, ma'am, as I recall,
if you got signals.
and Tiffany has it all written on the back of her hand, I think, but the first one, I believe, is in February, which is not actually at the end of the quarter, but I believe we said February because by that time we would have a good look at year-end, December 31, and that would really give us, I think, a clue as to how we ended up. So it was not intended that we would wait. I think council may remember, because of the way our revenues get reported, there's always a 45-day lag time between actual economic activity and when the revenues get reported upstairs in the sales tax office. So, for example, the March revenues would not actually, they'd get reported in April, and then you wouldn't see them till early May. Council said, no, let's back that up, and as I recall, it's about mid-February. I don't recall the exact date, but that was intended specifically to give council that early look at how the year's looking coming out of those important Christmas revenue period.
Tiffany probably has those dates down, but I recall them as February 15th, May 15th, August 15th, and November 15th.
They're actually in the motion that was part of the minutes that were recorded. So I don't remember the exact dates, but that sounds about right. Any other questions? All right, this is a public hearing. There are no names on this roster either, but, oops, I'm sorry, there is a Dave. Carol. I'm assuming you want to come down about the budget rather than the mill levy.
I'm Carol Breezak. I live in the 4th District. I'm here with an emotional plea more than anything else. I happen to love the calendar. I have several years' worth here. And I know it got cut, and I understand why it got cut. But as you were informed earlier, it's probably been maybe 6-8 weeks ago, Kelly and I met, and just kind of talked about some different ways to do the calendar where we could make it self-supporting. The next step would be for the council to give Kelly the green light to pursue some of our ideas, and I think we can do it, but I need some blessing from the council members before that can happen. So I'm just here to ask that the calendar be given a shot at surviving the budget cuts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Jim?
I would just respond to Carol. I think that that's a decision that we can make other than tonight. We need to see what the revenues coming in. The revenues may come in high enough that we can go back to that. And that would be the number one priority on my list to refund.
I'd also add with that any ideas for self-supporting projects that aren't going to require expenditures don't have to appear in the budget. So that's the, and encouragement to try and find answers.
All right, any other questions? Anyone else want to come down and address us? Bruce?
Kelly, what is in terms of the calendar specifically, what is the timeline that you guys need in order to get something teed up as far as the production of that thing is concerned?
Good evening, Council. I think we could wait till as late as maybe next spring, April, May, June, probably would be the end of it. Carol and I discussed a bunch of different options, and I haven't fleshed all them out. There are considerations because we have sponsors for the calendars, so printing fewer, I mean, they pay a fee, and so we couldn't charge for those. But one of the things I've thought a lot about is that I think you would still have to continue. We have a revenue account and an expenditure account for the calendar. We bring in revenue from those 12 sponsors. If we were to sell the amount that's different from what we give to the sponsors for their sponsorship, we'd need a line item in the budget. We'd need that money up front to pay a printer to print it, but then the revenue could come in over time as they were sold. So I haven't figured out how we would do it with zero city money up front, but I think that you could, if we sold them, you could recoup that money on the back end. So
this one is one, and I know I've had conversations with Charlie about the hazardous waste roundup as well for similar reasons as far as the importance to the community is concerned. Would it be appropriate to maybe ask you guys to put these, just so we don't lose visibility to them, either put them on our list or put them on a study session agenda list for sometime in, like, pick a date, March or something, so that we've got enough runway to make some decisions if it's appropriate to do so?
Sure.
Okay.
You can do that.
Thanks.
Okay.
Council, before you take a vote on this, I'd just like to publicly acknowledge the tremendously hard work that all of the staff, but particularly the finance team, Doug Farman, the director, Tiffany Hooden, Arlene Gladden, and all that finance team. They really, really worked hard this year, so just wanted to publicly acknowledge the really outstanding work put in by all city employees, but as you know, the finance team is the one that has to put it all together. So just for the record, to applaud their work on this.
Thank you, Jim, and we concur. All right. Anyone else come down and address us? Let's get a motion on the table then, please.
I move that the public hearing be closed and the 2011 annual appropriation ordinance be approved on second reading, and the council president hereby be authorized to affix his signature thereto.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance approving the 2011 annual appropriations budget. Discussion. As Jim pointed out, this was a difficult budget to do. Anytime you take 4% off of the general fund expenditures, it is a painful thing to do. I have been on councils where we had easy money, and I've been on councils where we have difficult money, like now, and I would much rather be on the councils with the easy money. But the reason why we did this, reason why we took the 4% off is to maintain a healthy reserve what we think is the minimum that's appropriate. We prefer to do this in the way that's the least painful to everybody involved. I think that the staff put in an incredible amount of hours and effort in order to get this to that point so that we have reductions that minimize disruptions to service to the citizens and to the departments. Bruce.
Actually, Jim was ahead of me, I think.
Jim.
Just to clarify something I think you said a while ago, Mr. Mayor, and that this ordinance with almost $69 million in it does not include any of the 3 enterprise funds. Those total amounts in those enterprise funds are over and above the $69 million in this ordinance tonight.
Okay. Bruce.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what the mayor said, in that this exercise really is effectively managing to avoid a financial crisis, which is demonstrably preferable to managing through a financial crisis. And I'm very impressed with staff, and I think council deliberations, we didn't always agree on what, the ultimate bits and pieces were going to look like, but my sense was that the staff and the council team together collectively worked very effectively to manage to avoid a financial crisis by acknowledging our obligation from a fiduciary standpoint to be prudent with the citizens' monies. And I think that's important to say that was really at the forefront of what we were doing.
Just want to echo on that front. I know if anyone goes back and they take a look at the minutes, they'll see that I think about every council member was on an up or a down or a sideways vote on just about everything that was gone through. So I think on balance, as the mayor was mentioning, trying to minimize the disruption to the city, preserve those things that are important to our citizens and access to those. There's a couple of items that we'll certainly have, as we've talked about earlier this evening, that are near and dear to some of our hearts, that are important, and we'll see how the year does go out in that. And so I think folks should have some comfort where we're keeping our eye on the ball.
Okay. Any other discussion? Council ready to vote? The motion is to approve the 2011 appropriation ordinance.
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay, now we need a motion for the mill levy.
I move that the public hearing be
Mayor,
closed.
I still haven't read that one.
I'm sorry.
This is an ordinance establishing the tax levy of 6.662 mills to defray the costs of municipal government and pay debt service of the City of Littleton, counties of Arapahoe, Douglas, and Jefferson, State of Colorado for the city's fiscal year beginning January 1, 2011 and ending December 31, 2011.
And this is a public hearing, so if anyone wants to come down and address us about the mill levy, you can do so now. Okay, Phil.
I move that the public hearing be closed and the tax paren mill levy ordinance be approved on second reading, and the council president is hereby authorized to affix his signature thereto.
Second.
I think that goes to Peggy. It's been moved and seconded to approve the mill levy. Discussion?
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
All right. That brings us to 9A, general business. First item is a motion to authorize a support letter for Arapahoe County on behalf of Community Housing Development Association.
Yes, Council, you got a memo from me with an attached proposal from the Community Housing Development Association, also known as CHDA, to apply for federal funding to acquire and renovate a 12-unit apartment complex located at 5532, 5541 South Delaware. CHDA is a nonprofit corporation. They're formed a partnership. They provide low-income housing for the more fragile and vulnerable citizens in our community, mentally ill, developmentally disabled folks, and so it's a partnership between Arapahoe Mental Health, Arapahoe House, and I'm forgetting the third one, Joe. Developmental pathways, thank you. So they really reach out and provide. Housing is such a critical component for this very fragile part of our population, so they've done a good job for that. This is some of the federal stimulus money. About a month ago, we also supported some funding for Arapahoe Mental Health, and this is some other money that has become available. This same nonprofit in 2006, they used similar funding to acquire the 36-unit Laura Lee apartments on South Fox Street. Those are right directly east of the Cheryl Lynn Manor nursing home, if you know that block. They are, our experience, the staff's experience with CDHA is they are very, very responsible. They manage the properties quite well. They're very cooperative with the city staff. And in the case of the Laura Lee apartments, I don't remember how much money they put in there, but I remember it was substantial, several $100,000, completely upgraded all of the appliances, really upgraded the properties. They will do the same with this property on Delaware. And in fact, this property is directly east, just behind the Laura Lee apartments, so it will give them some economies of scale to have their on-site management and be able to manage these properties together. In going through the funding, the bulk of this comes through, it's federal money, but it comes through the Arapahoe County Commissioners. They make the final decision, and the Board of Commissioners always request, in any city in the county, they always request a support letter from the local government when they're considering these funds. So they give a lot of weight to the local government and when they request these letters. Joe Davidson, who's the executive director for CDHA, is here tonight. We've worked, like as I said, we've worked with Joe on the Laura Lee apartments. Again, that's been a very successful project for us. And she's here to answer any technical questions that you might have.
Questions, Council? Just for background, this is, as Jim said, this is a project to acquire a 12-unit apartment complex located on Delaware Street. It would rehab the complex. It's about a $1.2 million project. And this would be great because we'd get an apartment complex rehabbed and good management to the complex. Bruce?
Just echo again what both Jim and the mayor said. The need for this type of housing, particularly in the developmental disabilities community, is acute. I am very supportive of this from the standpoint of not only the community impacts, but also the opportunity for folks, our friends and neighbors with developmental disabilities to have additional options that they need desperately. So.
Okay, if there's no other questions, how about a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the city manager be authorized to submit a letter of support on behalf of CDHA to Arapahoe County for federal funding to acquire and renovate an apartment complex located at 5532 through 5542 South
41, that should be, I'm sorry.
Is it 41?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 5541 South Delaware Street in Littleton.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the city manager to submit a letter in support of CDHA for federal funding. Discussion. Council ready to vote?
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you.
Let us know when you do the ribbon cutting.
We're looking forward to it. All right, item 9B is a discussion of the 2011 council workshop.
Yes, sir. This was requested by Councilwoman Cole.
I requested we put this on the agenda tonight so that we have a chance of getting a date that we all will have free on our schedules. So I suggest maybe mid-February.
Jim?
I was going to suggest that same time, after the February 15th review of our budget. I think maybe tying the two together might be very beneficial.
Yeah, that, you mean on the same day? As part of the, yeah,
part of
yeah,
that
that's
agenda.
what I was going to say, too.
Well, the 15th is a Tuesday. Do you want to have the workshop?
No, it doesn't.
Well, the next, we've typically had it on a Friday. That seems to be a day.
With the 18th.
Would be the 18th if you stay with your kind of standard format. Friday seems to be a day that most of you can arrange your calendars, and we
Bill?
usually.
Can you live with the 18th instead of the 15th?
Hold on a second, yeah, oh, yeah, no.
Bruce, check
As long
yours.
as we get the report, yeah.
I think I'm okay. It's far enough out.
Go with it, because we'll get something on the 15th, which will be that'll either be a study session or a council meeting anyway, so.
Yeah.
So you're okay
when are we
with
all like getting
the
high voice
18th
or
as
something?
a workshop date? All right.
And then, council, if you have ideas, as you know in the past, if you've got specific topics that a council member would like to have, usually staff has some ideas. As you recall, we'll send out a tentative agenda. We'll have some time to discuss that. I will be discussing that with the city staff going into December. But if you've got a particular topic, and then, if you remember, what we give you is kind of a draft agenda for the day. We start to assign some topics to time slots to kind of get an idea of what's going to be your priorities and what kind of background information the staff is going to have to develop for you. So
I request first we back up and have a motion, since we're now into mainly action minutes.
I am just going to do that in a second.
Okay.
But first, does anyone know when the President's holiday is? Is that weekend? Yeah. So, do you still want to do it on that weekend?
Weekend before is Valentine's Day.
That's even worse.
All right.
Want to let it go too
Peggy has moved that we have the workshop on February 18th.
I'll second.
And it's been moved and seconded. Discussion? It's ready to vote.
vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay.
Then I would like to move that we have the meeting in this building so that we can videotape it, so that we can have an accurate, complete record of it.
Okay, it's been moved to hold the meeting in this building. Is there a second? Dies for lack of a second.
So I respectfully ask how we can then have, what way we can have an accurate record. We tried audio taping, I think, a year and a half ago, and a lot of it was not audible. And we've had issues come up where we wanted to find out actually what was said, and there was no way to find out. So I would love somebody to offer a motion of how to do that.
We make that assignment to staff to maybe come back with some thoughts on it, to see.
I think as we get closer to the meeting, we can address what the I'd giddy thee, we have no money side. As we get closer to the meeting, I think we can look at how we need to keep a record of it. If there's any issues on not being able to get a record of what the decisions are.
And do I understand that we have identified at least the status of revenues, expenditures, et cetera, in line with the end-of-year quarterly report? Is that an item? I mean, Jim's city manager's wanting to start a list. Is that?
Well, I heard everybody say that that would be after the 15th. I heard Phil indicate that he still wanted to talk about this on the 15th, which is a council meeting. So as we get closer to that, I think we probably will need to flesh out what exact topics we're going to have.
Well,
Concerning that specific item, I would assume that if we're going to hold to the February 15th date to receive the information, we get that from staff, but we hold our discussion about it and do it in the part of the workshop on the 18th. That will give us an opportunity to review all the expenditures and revenues prior to getting to that date, and if they present it to us on the 15th, we can talk about it on the 18th.
Okay. I still don't think that we have a motion or a specific agenda for the workshop. I would once again suggest that as we get closer to the workshop, we may decide what specific topics we want to get. I'm going to guess that the budget would be one of them.
and I'd like us to consider, if we don't address it before, addressing some of our questions with perhaps the court fines, and because it maybe is a policy issue involved, and possibly issues related to code enforcement in terms of the multifamily approach.
Well, I believe that we have another study session on the courts on December 14th.
We're going to hear
isn't it?
something. Are we planning to have that as action, or, well, we can see. We may have follow-up stuff.
I think fines was on his list, wasn't it?
Right, fines was on the list, and that won't necessarily require council action. The municipal court rules allow the judge to adopt them. I think he's bringing them to council as advisory. Certainly if council wants to do it by resolution, they can, but there'll be no requirement.
So it'll be simple. Okay.
All right, that brings us to item 9C, which is a discussion on the start time for the January 11th study session.
That was my item, too.
Mm-hmm.
We got an email notifying us of the installation of
County commissioners and at our municipal court building. And so I thought some of us and or some of the citizens who normally watch might want to be attending that. And I thought we might want to delay our start time. And Kelly, did you find out?
I did not receive a warm response to changing the start time. The county said that they typically invite several hundred people to this swearing-in ceremony because it's for the sheriff and the assessor and the commissioners and so forth, and they've always had it at 7 o'clock. I was told that my counterpart there would ask the commissioners if they were willing to start it earlier, but...
Well, I didn't want them to start earlier. I just wanted to know how long the ceremony takes so that we could start later.
Well, I think they're planning on about a 2-hour event.
Oh, wow.
It'll
We
be
won't start that
the
late.
swearing-in ceremony, and it will also be saying farewell to those elected officials who won't be continuing on, and it's a reception.
So it's not like a fast swearing in at a certain point and then a lot of other stuff?
Well, I've never been, so I'm not entirely sure. Maybe some of you have? Oh, Jim knows. He's been.
I've been. But do we even have to have a meeting that night?
That's a study
session night.
It's a study session night, so do we have to have a meeting?
That's the council prerogative. You're not required to meet on that night, so.
I actually thought, too, if you wanted, meet at 5. If it's that important to you to go over there, just a thought. Meet earlier instead of later.
Okay, can I suggest that we hold off on a decision on this until we know what our workload is for the first part of January, or at least the latter part of December?
And we theoretically could do a study session on the 2 weeks after that?
Well, the alternatives are we could start earlier, we could not have a meeting, or
Move the meeting.
I was going to look at what January looked like, but there's only 4 Tuesdays in January, so.
Yeah, I don't think we've done, the 25th would typically be an outreach Then I can't remember.
And that's probably already scheduled.
We don't have any.
Why don't we send out, we'll check January, and then you can decide at your December 7th council meeting.
Okay.
We'll have a better, more in-depth look at January for you.
Or the 21st, whichever.
Sure.
All righty. Is that all right, Peggy?
That's fine, thank you.
Okay. Reports. Mr. City Manager.
2 calendar items to remind you of, council. This Thursday, 7:30 a.m., breakfast with Littleton High School students. And just to remind you, and this is especially for you, Mayor, it will be at the Service Center. Okay. At the Service Center up on Bellevue.
Thank you.
Okay. We do have, Marlene indicated there's a big turnout. I think we've got over 40 people reserved, and I think there is a couple of LPS board members are going to try to make it too, and a couple of staff. But I know in the past you've always enjoyed the energy of the kids. They always have lots of questions. So just to remind you of that on Thursday. And then Tuesday, next Tuesday, the 23rd, you will be hosted for breakfast at Hudson Gardens. And this will be a discussion with the Hudson Gardens Board of Directors and the Hudson Gardens staff. That's also a 7:30 start time. And then lastly, beginning next week, I will be out of the office pretty much for the next 2 weeks through Thanksgiving and the week after, taking quite a bit of accumulated vacation time that I have. So Phil will be available to you to respond to all of your requests and
or otherwise.
Or otherwise, right.
Good, we'll save everything up.
And that's all I have.
And just to remind council members that were at the student leader breakfast last time, they were doing speed enforcement on Windermere. So just be a little careful.
We're doing what? Speed enforcement?
How welcoming. Anything else? Dr. Cole.
First, I want to thank everyone who exercised their right to vote in the recent election. Second, I want to wish early happy birthday to Councilmember Cernanek. He was going to have a cake, but we had a little confusion on what date the cake was going to be here. So I promised to have a cake for him on December 7th. So it will be a belated happy birthday. And then along with probably everybody in the city and a lot of folks who don't live in the city, the library board is very sorry to see Marjorie Smith retiring. And I know we're going to have a city festivity in her honor, but we are all happy for her and sad to be losing her at the library. So I'm assuming that was no news to anybody who's watching, but there we are. Thank you.
Bill?
Yes. To add to the city manager's note with regard breakfast at Hudson Gardens, it's going to be at the Inn at Hudson Gardens.
Yes.
For the next Tuesday morning at 7:30. Of course, it was brought up at the South Suburban Park and Rec District Board meeting last week. And also 2 items that they covered at their board meeting last week. One was approving their budget of approximately $55 million. About $300,000 is coming from fee increases. And, of course, as always in their budget, there's a number of variable items. But they also indicated that, of course, there was a tough budget discussion, and I think it actually took longer this year. They didn't have somebody like me helping them through that, so we'll put that out there. And they are continuing on the financing assessment. The acquisition of the property at the Boat Works is moving ahead, and they're looking at a lease and leaseback approach with essentially a private funding as opposed to going out on bond or anything of that nature. And they're currently taking a look at that, hoping to execute that before the end of the year, hoping that interest rates remain at about a 3% level. If folks have been watching the municipal market, there's been some disruptions around some of that financing area. So, also this past week, the Economic Development Group of the South Metro Denver Chamber of Commerce met. There was an update from their Small Business Development Group with some very nice statistics and what's been going on relative to the rest of the state in the South Metro area. Of course, it's not helping every segment of the economy in that, but certainly some nice statistics to report relative to how their goals were set by the state of Colorado. Also, as part of the presentation was the now mayor of the city of Castle Pines, and talked about their city formation, and primarily their motivation, of course, was around economic development, and it was a very interesting presentation. I will circulate to staff and council the notes from that meeting. And then the Historic Preservation Board met last evening. They're doing a review of the list of merit properties within the city, and they're also doing a review of the due process around placing properties on the list of merit. Also, Andrea, who's the staff liaison, has been providing the board with a number of educational purposed articles in that, and some of them deal with zoning and the like, and those should probably be circulated to the council, and that was mentioned last night. And so Andrea made some note of that, and I just wanted to remind folks that that would be a good thing to get around. And there has been a grant submitted for the historic designation of the Arapahoe Hills development area, and that's moving forward. Jim.
Yes, the Littleton Housing Authority adopted resolutions on submitting forms to HUD, authorized payment standards and utility allowances, and reviewed the on-site inspection reports. And we've had a number of those in the past month. The second thing is I'm going to give to Jim, actually I'll probably give it to Jim to give to Marlene, the list of exhibitors at the National League of Cities at the Congress of Cities coming up. And so I'm giving it to him in case the department heads would like to look at it and see if there's any vendors there they would like me to pick up information from. I'll try to get it for them if they would like to have some of that information. That's all.
Deb.
Council, I'd like to propose a study session topic. I have been in conversations with a property owner in Littleton, Jim Abear, and he owns 14 acres, which has become known as the property that, a portion of the property that Walmart had intended. He has discussed with me an opportunity that he'd like to present the city in terms of selling some of his property as open space. So I would like to give him an audience in a study session, and I think it would be appropriate in that same study session to include Arapahoe County, South Suburban, as both of them may be potential funding partners in this, and then also Trust for Public Land, because they actually have a great depth of knowledge and can help answer a lot of questions and work through some details. The reason I think it's important to have a study session on this and include those partners is that it's no secret it's a difficult piece of land based on the referendum that was placed on the property. And Jim has been entertaining a number of offers, and he's been having a great deal of difficulty, and he has come up with some ideas and some options that he'd like to have us consider. And I think it's appropriate for us to spend some time looking at that and seeing what may be benefits for not only the property owner but for businesses that are currently existing there, and obviously for his open space opportunities too. So I'd like to, if there's no objections to putting that on a study session topic sometime near future.
I think if we do that, we need to add presentation by staff on the development potential on that section of property or those sections of properties with and without whatever this proposal is. I would guess that that part would probably take an hour by itself.
Well, it could, in fact, turn to 2 sessions, too, if it, or if you want to go do a 2-hour session.
Mm-hmm. Or Mr. Cortez' just suggestion, if you wanted to, it could be a possible workshop topic. But
I actually think it would work
better.
Would be more appropriate as a study session, since we're already, up to 4 partners included, and
sure. Okay.
And would like to get it probably on the calendar before February, if possible.
Okay. So you've just probably booked your January 11 study session.
Looks like it.
Well, we have, was December 14th too soon?
The judge is coming back, and then Chris Gibbons is making a presentation that was requested on shopping center development. We could add this that night. I think it would end up making a very long night for you. So the next available date, I think, would be January 11th, which would be the first one in the year.
Are we not going to meet on December 28th?
Nothing's scheduled right now, but that's always council's prerogative if you'd like to meet that night. We usually don't schedule, that's Fourth Tuesday is usually outreach of some kind, but we don't during the holidays. But if council would like to work on the 28th, we could certainly schedule. I'll have to check and see, for example, for the mayor's point of view, what staff will be here. That's still during the Christmas holidays, so we may have some staff out of town taking holidays. So we'd have to just check on staff availability. And I don't know about the partners, Trust for Public Land people.
Well, then why don't we schedule it for January 25th?
There's kind of a chicken and egg thing here, because unless we know what ABEARS is proposing, then we don't know how much property or what the effect is going to be. If we don't know that, then we can't have an analysis of what the potential economic perturbations might be. So I'm wondering, do you want Trust for Public Lands and South Suburban and those people here at the very beginning, or do you want them after we've had a chance to discuss the process, after we've been through the process and had a chance to discuss this a little bit? I mean, maybe the sequence is have ABEAR come in, make a presentation or proposal, then have a study session with the staff where they can, because they'll need some time to look at this, they can make a presentation on what the impacts are. Then the council can make a decision on whether they want to go ahead with it or not, and then we schedule that other groups, the external partners. Would that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is very interrelated, though, because part of, if there's funding partnerships, that could be potential funding partnerships.
Yeah.
That would help make decision. You'd make different decisions if you knew that there were going to be funding partners, and to bring that opportunity in at the end doesn't give you the full.
Yeah, but my guess is the thing that's going to hang us up is going to be whether we want to do open space or not. Then the next question will be who wants to participate and how much money are we willing to spend on the property and what's the appraisal value and all that other kind of stuff.
So
So if we did that on the 14th
of December,
perhaps if all we're doing at this point then would be a presentation on what the property is, then maybe we could do that on the 14th. Then in January, we could have the staff come back and do an analysis and a presentation on what the economics might be one way or the other. Then we could decide whether we wanted to go forward or not, and then start talking about what the cost is and who the partners are and things like that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we can at least get it started quicker.
Mm-hmm. I think that would work. I think
That fit in the 14th?
Yes, sir, and we can get it in.
Okay.
And so then we would have Jim, property owner, come to that meeting, and we'd have.
Think he'd be ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that process, are there any objections to that process for study sessions? Okay.
Got it.
Anything else?
No, we don't.
Bruce?
Oh, jeez.
Let me relax.
Yeah, kick back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Okay. The kudos to Mayor Clark, Tim Nims over at the museum, and Fire Chief Mullen for their participation in the Veterans Day event at the World War II Memorial at Kettering. Very well done and very respectful and moving ceremony. Attended the Littleton Public School Board meeting on the 11th, and the certification of the results of the 3A election were basically 57.5% yes, 42.5% no as far as the mill levy override was concerned. They also indicated that they're in the beginning stages of the 2011-2012 budget planning exercise, and much uncertainty yet remains as far as what lagging effects the economy will have both this coming budget cycle and then 2 to 3 years down the road. The expectation is they're going to be very judicious with the incremental funding provided by the 3A vote, which was the incremental mill levy and property taxes to fund the school system at about $12 million. But a lot of that could start eroding with funding cuts from the state. So there's still a lot of uncertainty in that whole process. They did present, or they did submit the CAFR, their version of the comprehensive annual financial report, which is available online. And 2 retirements were also announced from longstanding LPS members. Mike Owens, the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, and Lucinda Hundley, the Assistant Superintendent for Support Services, will both be stepping down at the end of the year, and both have served admirably over an extended period of time and will be greatly missed by that organization. The Littleton Fire Protection District Board meeting was the 15th, actually yesterday, and they passed their first reading of their budget for this upcoming year, which is actually slightly higher than last year as far as revenues are concerned, due to increased valuation assessments, for principally driving their property tax revenues, which is their major funding source. Their ending fund balance is actually increasing a couple $100,000 roughly year over year, and they're closely, of course, coordinated with the city's budget process. They're also, after the beginning of the year, potentially going to start looking at some water conservation and audit programs in association with some statewide groups in that regard. This morning I attended a Jefferson County elected officials breakfast out at Red Rocks Community College. Had gotten an invite, and I happened to work down the street from that anyway, and it was actually well attended with a variety of county commissioners, council members from throughout Jefferson County, county treasurer, city, county assessor, district attorney, so forth and so on. And of course, Littleton has a portion of the city which resides in Jefferson County, principally the Trailmark area, so it was appropriate to do that. And it was good to meet some of those folks just from a regional view. The often imitated, never duplicated merchant plug of the week was going to go to Smartco, but since that's probably a bad idea at this point, let's give it instead to the Egg and I over at River Point, because you know you want ham and eggs. In fact, what would go better right now than a big plate of bacon and eggs and hash browns and a large OJ? Since you can't have Jack in the Box, you might as well go for eggs and bacon. The last thing I'll mention is the Fine Arts Committee is working with the city webmistress. Can I say that? Anyway, actually it's the webmaster, but Kathy Weaver, to get start figuring out how to put some of the fine arts collection on the website. And I think it was also the Best of Show. Start publicizing that from a social media, social networking perspective as far as utilization of the city's website as a city-related board. So I think that's a slick little idea that they're using to publicize what's going on with the Fine Arts Committee. And that's all I've got.
Jose?
This Saturday at the Firehouse 12 on Broadway, we're going to be honoring a man, Mr. Earl Coffern, who was the fire chief of the volunteers before we came on with a paid department. He worked for the volunteers for many, many years. He also worked with the Arapahoe Rescue Patrol with Stan Bush and was very involved with those young kids. He was a member of the Littleton Cemetery Association. He was our secretary for about 20 years, and previous to that, when he was a young kid, he used to work at the cemetery when they dug the graves with a big shovel. And that was part of his job when he was a young kid, is he'd get a job up at the cemetery, and he just kept on going until he made secretary. But anyway, this is going to be at 11 a.m. His last request from me when I went to see him was whether or not Chief Mullen would be receptive to doing a little service for him. He was an only child, and he grew up here in Littleton on Rapp Street. I think he was born in 1930. And so we're expecting a lot of people up there, and if anybody wants to go from here to up to the service that's going to be conducted by John and the chaplain, and I'm assuming that the Arapahoe Rescue Patrol would like to say some nice words about him. So that will be this Saturday, 11 a.m. at the Firehouse on Littleton Broadway. The GLYI, the Greater Littleton Youth Initiative, met this last week, and they have a very nice program that involves the young children from the time they're born just about till they go into kindergarten. And what they do is they have programs that they have little puppets that they work with the kids, and they teach them how to behave with these puppets. They also teach them, they have a lot of graphics that they teach them how to learn numbers and things to get them to be prepared to go into the kindergarten. And it's a very nice program, and it's going to be extended. The community college has done this for some years, but they wanted to upgrade and get more kids at the college, so that they're going to go into the college more, and they have donated some of the money that they've raised in order for different programs of this nature. So it's going to be very nice. The college folks were there, and I think it's a very beneficial program for the children, and it also includes the parents. You know, a lot of these kids are out of control, and they get in there and work with them, and it's pretty much like babysit them all the time and teach them how to be young little people. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Deb, you want to make a motion for executive session?
You only give the Dr. Cog report?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll let you forget
It was
that.
completely unintentional. Dr. Cog report?
The Metro Vision Issues Committee passed refinements on the Metro Vision Policies Plan dealing with urban centers and community design. Adopted a goal of reducing per capita water use by 2035. Received copies in preparation for public hearing on the Metro Vision Regional Transportation Plan, the 2035 Metro Vision Plan, and the Transportation Improvement Program development process. The Administrative Committee and Board of Directors will meet tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Council, this evening I am making two motions based on two different issues for exec. I move that City Council convene an exec session pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-402, paren 4, subsection B, for legal advice, and subsection E, to develop negotiating positions or instruct negotiators regarding Denver water contract.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to convene an executive session to receive legal advice and instruct negotiations regarding Denver water contract. Discussion. This takes 5 votes.
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay.
Council, I move that City Council convene an exec session pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-402, paren 4, subsection B, for legal advice, and subsection E, to develop negotiating positions or instruct negotiators regarding the Inglewood-Littleton Sewer Treatment Plant and Sterling Ranch.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to convene executive session to receive legal advice and instruct negotiators concerning the sewer treatment plant in Sterling Ranch. Discussion on that. This also takes 5 votes.
The vote is 4 in favor, with Councilwoman Cole, Councilman Clark, and Councilwoman Brinkman voting no. The motion fails.
Okay, we go into one of 2 executive sessions. When we come back, we will not be conducting any business. I believe in the executive session we'll have the city manager, city attorney, all of council, and who else?
Deputy City Manager and Director of Public Works.
Okay, thank you. And let's meet about 1:45 in the conference room. Thank you.
Upstairs. Over here.
No, conference room down here, building conference room.